Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Developing and Managing Archives and Digital Library Internships, being presented by the Sunshine State Digital Network. My name is Kayla Zayas-Ruiz. I'm the Program Director for SSDN, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar today. I have enabled closed captioning, so you should be able to click on the CC button at the bottom of your Zoom window and follow along. The captioning is automatic, so there may be errors in the transcription, but that is an option if you need it. We have 4 presenters today that are going to talk to you about different approaches to internships in archives and digital library environments. And we will take questions from everybody at the end of the entire panel. If you have questions that you don't want to hold on to, you can put them in the chat and we will answer them at the end. But that is also an option if you don't want to wait to put it in there till the question and answer section. Introducing today's presenters, we have Jamie Rogers, the Assistant Dean for Strategic Initiatives at Florida International University Libraries. Hannah Wyatt Davis is the Preservation Program Director at Florida State University Libraries. Matthew Story is the Archives Historian at the Florida Department of State in the Division of Library and Information Services. And Vicki Tobias is the Program Coordinator for Recollection Wisconsin, which is part of the Wisconsin Library Services up in Wisconsin. So thanks to all our presenters for joining us today. And without further ado, I'm going to hand control over to Jamie, and she's going to get us started.
Thank you so much, Kayla. And let me make sure that this is working so I can advance the slides. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to share the internship framework that we've developed at Florida International University. And I'm also really excited to hear from my colleagues and co-panelists about their internship programs. Before we begin, I'd like to give a little bit of background about myself and the FIU Digital Collection Center. So as Kayla mentioned, I'm the Assistant Dean for Strategic Initiatives. I am relatively new to this role, having transitioned over just back in January. But before that, I managed our Digital Collection Center. And our Digital Collection Center includes collections of digitized and born digital cultural heritage materials from FIU and community partners. It also includes our institutional repository, our data repository, our digital scholarship program, as well as outreach for the Digital Library of the Caribbean. So as you can see, this provides for a wide range of potential internship experiences. So at the FIU Digital Collection Center, we have always aimed to have our internship opportunities go beyond just work experience, right? Our goal has been to integrate structured learning outcomes, provide mentorship, and professional development that's going to have a lasting benefit for our students, even if they choose not to go into the library profession. And over the years, we've had both undergraduate and graduate students from all disciplines. So that's from the humanities, the social sciences, and the sciences. And no matter what their career path is, the majority of our interns, I believe, find the skills that they've developed to be useful in their professional journeys. So now I'll talk a little bit about designing internship programs. And I'll start off with our funding models. So our internship opportunities are often based on funding availability because unless the student makes a really strong case for volunteering, we aim to provide only paid internships. We also have a very small budget line for interns, and it's not enough to cover paid internships unless it's supplemented in one way or another. And so this may not be unusual case for others in libraries, but I'm going to share some of the things that we've been able to do to mitigate this. So we've been able to supplement our budget and the budget of other library departments by supporting cross-departmental initiatives and leveraging those funds across units. So for instance, we might share an intern with our special collections department working on a collaborative project. We've also partnered with departments and programs across our campus. Examples include our long-term collaboration and hosting of interns through what's called the Humanities Edge program. And now this program is a college to university pathway for undergraduate students who are majoring in the humanities, and it's funded through the Mellon Foundation. And we've been lucky to provide internships through this program since 2019. We also provide internship opportunities, for instance, for our public history program at FIU. And last, we develop internship opportunities through grant-funded projects. So the Digital Collection Center is often a grant recipient. However, we have also hosted interns on grant projects that are awarded to other departments, for instance, like the history department, as long as we're included on the grant, right? So the next thing I wanted to cover is credit versus non-credit models. We offer both credit bearing and zero credit internship options, but at FIU, most of our students choose a zero credit path. And this is likely influenced by their degree requirements and whether or not they prefer to treat the internship as paid work rather than actually having to pay tuition for the course credit. Now I'll get to structuring the internship. So while the scheduling of our internship opportunities is tied to resource availability, we maintain a consistent framework for engaging with our student interns. And the first part of this framework is defining the learning outcomes. So both the 4 credit and 0 credit internships, we collaborate with the academic departments, faculty, or grant partners to design internships that meet both the institutional needs and our student needs. Some programs, particularly when 4 credit, have very specific learning outcomes and time obligations. Similarly, grants have clear deliverables that need to be considered. And programs like Humanities Edge have very specific skills like time management, project and task prioritization, communication skills, and collaboration that they expect students to gain during their internship experience. That being said, we also like to get student input when developing the learning outcomes. So the initial interview as well as the onboarding process are both excellent opportunities to learn more about the intern's goals. And from there, we develop the desired learning outcomes from technical skills like metadata creation or digitization to professional competencies in research. We might also provide some flexibility as the intern gains more experience and they develop their interest and professional trajectory, especially for interns that work with us over multiple semesters. We also like to pair each intern with a dedicated mentor who provides guidance, project oversight, constructive feedback, and professional networking opportunities. And we like to help make connections for interns who perform well and have an interest in the field. And lastly, we like to make sure that we have a balanced scope. We design our projects that are achievable within the internship timeframe with milestones and deliverables that connect directly to the learning outcomes and the project goals. So now we get to actually managing and supporting our interns. So as mentioned previously, part of the onboarding process for interns includes a discussion of their interests, their internship goals, and how we can map those to our current projects. We also provided scaffolded training. So for example, we may start with a quality control project to familiarize the intern with the collection and the associated objects. We provide training on metadata best practices and concepts such as controlled vocabulary before we move on to tasks like metadata creation. We also do regular check-ins during the internship, and this is not as true now because we've no longer have the hybrid option, but before we may not have always been in the same physical space as their interns. So we use scheduled meetings to monitor the progress, address challenges, and connect the day-to-day tasks to the broader professional context. Post-internship, we continue to support our students by offering letters of recommendation or introductions to professional contexts. And in many cases, we maintain communication to support future careers in librarianship. Oh, and I got ahead of myself. That's this slide. So to summarize, when considering whether or not to offer an internship program, it's really important to make sure the program aligns with your organizational strategic goals, student learning outcomes, available funding, and I can't stress this enough, staff time. By co-developing the experiences with clear outcomes and providing support before, during, and after the internship, we are not only preparing our students for their future careers, but also strengthening our institutional capacity and professional pipelines. So here's my contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know more about FIU's internship programs. And I'll pass it over.
Well, all right. I'm up next. Hello, everybody. My name's Matthew Story once again, and I'm going to talk today about how we do things here at the State Archives of Florida, nested within the Florida Division of Library and Information Services at the Department of State. A little introduction for me as well about how I fit into the State Archives. So I am the archives historian, which means I do a lot more work on the accessibility and outreach side of our work. So I work all the time with the Florida Memory Program, working on digitization, selections, cataloging, and then I do a lot of presenting as well. So um, our interns get experience with this, but there's also another part of this equation that we'll talk about in a minute. Um, for every intern we have, though, we encourage them and point them toward as a useful goal, uh, building some type of interpretive resource that takes advantage of the other things that they've learned and worked on during their internship. Stuff hopefully will wind up on Florida Memory. That's not a hard and fast rule. We want to see that you have a good project, and okay, well, maybe it's not a perfect fit for Florida Memory, but it doesn't mean it's not a good project. So there's a little variability there, but this is the sandbox that we're playing in. If I could have the next slide, please. Our internship program is fairly limited, so we host interns one at a time on site. Prior interns have been graduate students, overwhelmingly from FSU's Historical Administration and Public History program or the School of Information. I am one of these interns. I was an intern from the HAP program in 2016. I have an interesting perch here in that now I'm on the other side of this thing. Oh, I see a me too. Hello. Um, so we tend to uh, have one at a time, which gives us some advantages, right? We've got um, a known 320 hours we're going to have this person for, and that means that we can plan out a little staff time, plan out what we hope this person can achieve with us, and then we get to do it. So we have a little bit of a luxury in that, unlike a lot of our counterparts at an academic institution who typically are dealing with quite a few more than one student at a time. We've got somebody who comes to us, they interview. Our internship is not typically paid. It has happened before, but that's not a promise I can make. So let's talk about our interns next. Let's look at the next slide. So what we have our interns do during those 320 hours, we set them up first in collections management, and as close as we can, we're going to work with them, find what they're interested in, and then find a collection that fits it. And then they're going to follow that collection through all of our major workflows. That's multiple staff members. Typically, that looks like 3 to 4 weeks in collections management. They're going to learn um, arrangement and description, handling, housing, and indeed, they're typically going to process the collection themselves and enter it into our catalog. So they're going to get into some cataloging um, on the back end side. Then they come to Florida Memory for the second month. Usually, we also work in at least a few days at our reference unit in between just to see how um, you make the jump from arrangement and description to researchers using it. And then in Florida Memory, it's again more of that access side, but we're talking now about anticipating how people might use something. So we're looking a little further ahead. In Florida Memory, they will learn more cataloging, which is to say we go even deeper down into the item level. Anything they're going to use in their project, we ask them to image and catalog themselves. So I'll guide interns through that process. So we teach them cataloging, we teach them especially relevant imaging workflows and some of our specialized equipment, Capture One software, Film 2 if they're into that. We'll teach them some of our film editing workflows. And then they'll, for the last 2 to 3 weeks, start putting all of this together, this collection they've been working with since they were uh, processing it, and they're going to put it together into some kind of an interpretive resource, be that a learning unit for our Florida Memory classroom, or maybe it fits better as an article. When I was an intern here, I wrote a couple of articles, one of which was based from the collection I had been working with. Um, if they're more interested in maybe our photographic collection, that might also look like a series of social media highlights and showing off, some curated galleries from the photographic collection. So there's a lot of different versions of what does the product look like, but the route we take to get there, we try to make sure is very consistent. Um, but the next slide, we'll talk about what the outcomes are for us. So how are we evaluating um, our interns? So above all, we want to make sure that these folks are leaving the state archives with practical experience. Uh, Again, for me, those check boxes, I want to make sure that somebody's familiar with a lot of the concepts of cataloging. We have an in-house cataloging guide that we work through with our interns on. Um, Document handling, processing, of course, as well as our imaging equipment, um, just for the sake of that specialized stuff. When you get into the world of archival imaging, and it's a feather that we like to help people put in their caps to be able to operate this equipment. The interpretive resource is how we measure in a very roundabout way, how are you bringing it all together? Your processing knowledge, your cataloging, it's all going to help you condense what is this collection? Why is it important? What story can you tell out of it? And take it into something that people can pick up and engage with. Now, again, that is always a little variable according to interests, and something we are always thrilled to send an intern on their way with, even if it doesn't necessarily make it all the way to Florida Memory. So satisfactory internships for us are measured by learning and what we have to teach and help people build some really valuable hands-on experience, not only at an archival institution, but in a government archives and in an institution like ours. Not so much the finished product. And so that's what we're asking for satisfactory. Um, and again, 320 hours is not that long, so we are taking kind of a whirlwind tour through the state archives of Florida. Um, It certainly worked out very well for us. It worked out great for me anyways. Former intern, later found work in the field. That is true of many of my colleagues, both here and elsewhere. Um, Gosh, I think even some of our longtime Gerard Clark, one of our state archivists, retired several years ago. He was an intern back in the 70s. So this is a pretty well established program we have here, um, although the scale is fairly small. Um, that's the short version. I'll be happy to take any questions at the end, but I think I'll turn it over to whoever's next.
Thanks so much, Matthew, and thank you, Kayla, and everyone for having me here today. My name is Vicki Tobias, and I am the program coordinator for the Recollection Wisconsin Digitization Initiative, which is a mouthful to say. I didn't name it. I also teach part-time for the UW-Madison Information School and have worked within Wisconsin Library, Archive, and local history in the community for the past 2 decades in a variety of roles. Most recently, I was the media archivist at UW-Madison Archives. But today I'm super excited to tell you about the Recollection Wisconsin Digitization Initiative, which is our latest endeavor to support student interns. It's a project that brings together Wisconsin local history organizations, new Recollection Wisconsin content partners, and information school graduate students to specifically create and share a new digital collection through Recollection Wisconsin, which is our state's DPLA hub. In general, it's a graduate student internship program that aims to provide quality experiential learning for future information professionals. As an introduction to our program, I want to give you a super quick overview of our 2 parent organizations, Recollection Wisconsin and Wisconsin Library Services. So Recollection Wisconsin, the program was established in 2005 as a collaborative effort of Wisconsin libraries, archives, museums, and local history organizations. Fast forward to 2016, Recollection Wisconsin joined the Digital Public Library of America, or DPLA, as Wisconsin's DPLA hub. Like all DPLA hubs, Recollection Wisconsin brings together digital cultural heritage resources from our state's libraries, archives, museums, all sorts of cultural heritage organizations. You can learn more about us and our collections on our website. A quick note about funding. Recollection Wisconsin was funded by LSTA grants for many years through our state's Department of Public Instruction. And just 2 years ago in 2023, we were finally written into our state budget. So we are part of our state's biennial budget and have a small budget line. Our funding comes from the Universal Service Fund, which is a telecommunications tax. So that's a little bit about Recollection Wisconsin. Next slide. Thank you. The other parent organization is WILS, which stands for Wisconsin Library Services. This is a Wisconsin-based library-focused project manager, and one of the many projects that they manage is Recollection Wisconsin. I encourage you to take a look at the website. If you're unfamiliar with WILS, they have all sorts of cool collaborations and projects going on around the state of Wisconsin. Next slide. Thank you. So what is this initiative? It's a collaborative endeavor which brings together Wisconsin organizations with local history collections and Wisconsin-based information school graduate students to digitize and publicly share their collections through Recollection Wisconsin. So our host sites choose collections to digitize, the student staff handle the digitization process, the scanning, the metadata work. They create project documentation, and this is part of a paid practicum or independent study experience. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. As an organization, it's important to share that Recollection Wisconsin we have great depth of experience working with graduate students and the 2 graduate programs in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee and Madison. And we do feel really strongly that a successful learning experience includes a lot of support for project planning, project management, and coordination between the project partners, the local history organization, the graduate school program. training, ongoing training, just-in-time training, access to learning resources, and most importantly, ongoing support through the life cycle of the project, but also the semester that the student is participating in our program. So I'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but we do provide a ton of support for our student participants, but also our host sites and our host site supervisors. A lot of the host sites who participate maybe have never had a student intern or a graduate student intern. They rely heavily on volunteer labor, or maybe they're a one person shop. So in a lot of ways, this is an amazing continuing education experience for them as well. They participate in all the training, all the meetings. So a lot of coordination of these pieces and coordinating all of the support and communications and project management is my role within the initiative. So I'm kind of the ringmaster of all of these projects. Next slide, please. So what is the initiative? Our program is a cohort and semester-based program lasting either 12 weeks or 15 weeks, depending on the semester and following the academic calendar. Our student interns are placed with a Wisconsin local history organization, a museum, a library, or another archives type organization to complete a digitization project. Our students earn practicum or fieldwork credit depending on their particular graduate program, and most of them are required to complete 120 hours of work for that program. Excuse me. In general, our students and their host site supervisor will collaborate to complete a digitization project. So prior to the semester, the host site supervisor, in collaboration with me, creates the project plan, selects the materials to digitize. The student completes a range of tasks, everything that you can imagine that might go into a digitization project: scanning, photography, metadata, uploading content to our content management system, which is Content DM, creating documentation, just kind of general project management tasks as well. Our students do receive a stipend, and we reimburse them for mileage to their host sites. We feel really strongly when we can to support paid student practicum and experiential learning. Our students also have an opportunity to write a blog post for us sometime during the semester about any aspect of their project or experience that appealed to them. We love this because it gives them something to point to on their resume, on their LinkedIn page. They can talk about it in the job talk, and it lives on our website. The host site supervisor is an important component of the project. I do a lot of preparation with that person prior to the semester, talking about expectations and what it means to supervise a graduate student. We ask them to provide some day-to-day support, at the very least an orientation to the organization, their work, their collections. We ask them to invite their student to participate in a meeting or an event, something going on during the semester at their organization that gives the student a sense of who they are, what they do, why they do it, and belonging within the organization. And finally, we work really closely with both Wisconsin information schools in Madison and Milwaukee to make sure that our projects and the structure of our program meets their learning objectives. As I mentioned, I teach part-time for UW-Madison, the information school, and I also was an advisor and mentored students in practicum experiences. So I kind of have the inside scoop on that. So it's been helpful in coordinating these projects in this program. Next slide. Thank you. So our cohorts, each semester is a cohort, and our cohorts are made up of project teams. Each team consists of a student, a host site supervisor, and me. Our students and host sites are invited to apply to our program early, and we do our best to match and place folks who apply. We've had way more applications than we have placements, but we do, there are a variety of reasons that maybe we can't place a student or a host site's not ready to participate, but we do keep their applications in the system, and we continue to try to place them as long as they're interested and willing. Obviously, students have a finite timeline for completing their independent study or their practicum experiences, but we kind of have a running database of host sites that are interested in participating. Our application process and requirements are loose and flexible. We ask that students have at minimum an interest in this work area, digitization projects, working with a local history organization, working with archival materials, and have taken at least one course or have some experience in project management, digitization, metadata, something like that. We ask that our host sites have project idea in mind, and then I work with them to develop that project idea into a fully fleshed out project plan, but also that they have the space and equipment necessary to host a digitization project and a student intern, and maybe most importantly, the capacity to be an active supervisor. We want to make sure that the folks who are signing up to host a student understand the time and the work that's expected of them to provide the student with a quality experience. So I conduct an informal interview with each applicant. It's really kind of a matchmaking process for students. It depends on their specific learning goals, proximity to potential host sites, their ability and willingness to travel a little bit. For our host sites, we gauge their readiness to host a student and to develop and successfully execute a digitization project. And then staff and faculty at both of the Wisconsin information schools help us out a bunch by promoting the initiative to their students, their faculty, and their advisors throughout the year. So once we've selected our cohort, the students and the host sites that are going to participate in an upcoming semester, we have a few expectations of them. We ask each one to sign a participation agreement, which outlines the expectations, the semester timeline, that sort of thing. I work closely with each host site to continue developing their project, sometimes right up until the beginning of the semester. This might include providing advice for purchasing a scanning equipment, conversations about copyright and permissions, maybe talking through some metadata elements. We host a virtual training session at the beginning of each semester where we review the semester schedule, we review checklists for both students and host sites. We spend some time going over each team's project plan. It's really an opportunity for everybody to kind of get on the same page, meet each other, talk about the goals for the project. We also review digitization best practices, including scanning, metadata, digital preservation concepts, and onboarding to Content DM. As I said, we provide a ton of support for our participants. Throughout the semester, I share a weekly reading or some other item, something to read, something to watch related to digital project work. I also schedule a short weekly virtual meeting with each student. This is just a quick, how's it going? What are you working on? How can I help you this week? Type of conversation. Excuse me. It's also an opportunity to chat about the weekly curriculum if they're interested in doing that. I am not their instructor. I'm not giving them a grade, but I do feel strongly that they should have something that they're reading or watching throughout the semester to kind of glue together and solidify the concepts that we are hoping that they acquire throughout the semester related to digital project work. Likewise, once a month, I meet with each team. And these are slightly longer virtual meetings where we kind of talk about the project as a whole, troubleshoot any issues that might come up. Sometimes we talk about outreach and what might happen after the semester, how they're going to use the digitized collection to meet some of their organization goals. Each semester we have an all cohort virtual meeting, which is super fun. It's kind of an informal brown bag lunchtime gathering where we have a project reporting out. Everybody gets to share a little bit about their project and their progress. Excuse me, and hear about each other's work. And also an opportunity to build community, which is really important for the students. Let's see. At the end of the semester, we ask each student and host site supervisor to complete a brief survey about their experience. We use this data to improve our program. And we actually just got the results from our summer cohort this morning. So I'm looking forward to digging through that. Excuse me, it's allergies. Love the pollen in the air. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So like any good initiative, we have a few goals. We're excited to continue building and improving existing relationships with Wisconsin libraries, archives, and museums. This is an opportunity to introduce new audiences to our organization and our collections. Also important to me is to demonstrate a tangible return on Wisconsin taxpayer dollars by supporting Wisconsin higher education and Wisconsin students, training future Wisconsin information professionals. It's, we love to talk about, building the collections and, outreach and things like that. But, I think it's also important to remember that this is a workforce development program in some ways, that we're really invested in that next generation of Wisconsin information professionals. A few goals related to our host sites and our host site supervisors. This initiative is actually helping us reach one of our strategic goals for the last and the next biennium. Some targeted outreach to organizations in non-participating Wisconsin counties and other underrepresented community groups. We currently have 7 Wisconsin counties without representation in Recollection, Wisconsin. So I've done some outreach to those areas to see if we can get more local history organizations to participate in this initiative. Let's see, next slide, please. Sorry, I lost my notes. Another important component of this program to build and share sustainable workflows to provide more hands-on support for digitization work. One of the cool things that we ask students to do is to create some very detailed project documentation throughout the semester. And then at the end of the semester, they turn that over to their host site supervisor so they can continue with the digitization project. They have some instructions and workflows and in some cases, a project manual that they can then give to the next intern or a volunteer working on the project. Next slide. So we're committed to providing quality experiential learning for our students. It's important to us, and we're really grateful that we're able to provide a stipend and reimburse our students for their travel costs. I think it shows them that we value their work, but it's also an opportunity to model for our local history organizations and other folks who participate that, student labor is valuable labor, and that it's, if you can, it's important to compensate for that labor. Another goal of this program is to provide experiential learning opportunities for students who might live outside of Madison or Milwaukee, which are our 2 largest cities in Wisconsin. Especially students who are participating in online programs throughout the state, but also who might live in less populated areas in Wisconsin. Typically, it's hard for them to find good practicum experiences in their areas. And so with our funding, we're able to support some travel. In some cases, we put students up overnight who have traveled great distance. So that's been great. In addition, as I've mentioned, our participants receive a weekly curriculum, a whole bunch of training, but I think more importantly, in some cases, they have a clear project deliverable, a well-structured project plan, which I think makes for a more meaningful learning experience. So that's our initiative. What's next for us? We just wrapped up our summer cohort. We're really proud to have supported 11 new projects, 11 graduate students, and 11 host sites in our inaugural year, which was last fall, spring, and the summer. We're analyzing our evaluation data and feedback from each semester's cohort and refining our program. As I mentioned, we received state funding for another round of projects coming in 2026. We have a digital readiness toolkit, and we're excited to continue using this curriculum for our training and ongoing project support. And finally, we're also going to be putting together a little how-to document that outlines our framework, our goals, the components of this initiative, and we'll be sharing that on our Recollection Wisconsin website sometime this fall. So that is the Recollection Wisconsin Digitization Initiative. You can read more about it on our website. Our participant blog posts are a great way to kind of get a sense of the kinds of projects and the experiential learning that they experienced. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or thoughts about the initiative. I'm always happy to chat about it. So thank you so much. I will turn it over to our last speaker, Hannah.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Wyatt Davis, and I'm the Preservation Program Director at Florida State University Libraries, specifically in the Special Collections and Archives Division. I'm really happy to be here today, and I'm also happy to present last because my colleagues who presented earlier they have such established programs, and I'm learning a lot from this, and I'm taking away a lot today. So anyways, here we go. My program is a little smaller. It's a little more fledgling than the ones that you have heard about earlier today, but we're getting there. So the overview of my preservation internship program is it's a semester-long internship that introduces graduate or undergraduate students to preservation work in special collections and archives. We are flexible if we offer the internship for pay or for credit. It really kind of depends on the academic goals for the student who is taking on that internship. The internship is structured to mimic an introductory course on preservation. We have specific learning objectives and outcomes for it, which includes introduction to the principles, policies, and practices of preservation in special collections and archives. Our interns have to conduct condition assessments of our materials, determine the best method for physical stabilization, and understand different housing enclosures and other methods for physical stabilization. And they also have to be able to design and build custom enclosures for paper-based materials as well as artifacts. And at the end of their internship, our interns are required to complete a portfolio documenting their custom housing treatments with their corresponding documentation. Next slide, please. So we haven't had that many interns come through this program. My very first intern was in 2019. It was a last-minute arrangement for a staff member who already worked in special collections. She needed an internship for a program credit. I believe she was a museum studies minor. She needed an internship, and one of my colleagues said, "Hey, do you have any capacity for an intern?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." Except I was very overwhelmed. I was unprepared. I had never run an internship before. I don't have a background in teaching or anything like that. So I was winging it the whole time. I had not figured out how to create learning objectives for interns. Her projects were really haphazardly thrown together. Every week we were kind of rolling with it, finding things to do. I was often soliciting my colleagues for back burner projects that they needed. So all in all, reflecting on that internship, it went okay. Fortunately, that intern, she was very highly motivated, and she took the most out of it that she possibly could, and she's been very successful in her career since then. So what have we done since then to improve on our little preservation internship? I thought long and hard about what it means to run a meaningful program to really support students and their learning goals. And I realized I needed help. So I looked at the AIC guidelines, that's the American Institute for Conservation, their guidelines for pre-program internships, as well as the SAA best practices for internships. And the AIC guidelines were particularly useful for me because I would regularly have students from the art department contact me and say, I am interested in being an art conservator. Can I intern with you? I am not an art conservator. So at the time I was having to say, no, I don't really know how to support you. And now I realize I can support these students looking for this experience, even though I'm not a conservator, because you don't have to necessarily be a conservator. You just follow the pre-program guidelines. And that's really like having out objectives for your students, giving them opportunities to create projects that they can show in their conservation program applications. So a lot of conservation programs require you to have a certain amount of hours. They require you to submit a portfolio to really demonstrate that you are ready for this program. So I felt like the AIC guidelines was super helpful for me. Using those guidelines, I completely rewrote the internship advertisement. I created an actual syllabus, which was very new for me. I researched how to develop objectives and learning goals, especially new for me. And I also worked on aligning the internship with the FSU strategic plan, specifically ensuring student success on campus and beyond. I'm at a university. You would think that I could use the guidelines of FSU to create a successful internship. And I also standardized the schedule and training within the internship. So everyone knows exactly what they're going to be doing every week. It's not a secret what we're going to be working on next week, like it was for our intern. Next slide. So now our students are booked and busy. Our interns have really hyper scheduled training. And of course, it can be flexible. Life happens. Sometimes concepts don't come as naturally to you as others. But for the most part, each week they have scheduled training, readings, and activities. And each custom housing training that they learn will build on the skills they've learned the previous week. So each intern starts out with basic rehousing. That's refoldering collections, putting things in new boxes. And then slowly they learn how to make phase boxes and clamshell boxes. And then they graduate to a lidded box. And maybe that lidded box has a foam insert piece. So they're learning how to use the hot iron and knife. And then they learn how to do mylar encapsulation. And we have had some really remarkable custom housing coming out of these internships. Our interns also receive training on surface cleaning, works on paper, climate monitoring, and especially because their internships always seem to be during hurricane season, we do a lot of disaster preparedness. I just wanted to mention a few tools that I like and have found success with using in my internship program. So one of them is FreedCamp, which is a project management tool. I use this system to assign tasks. It's also great for linking to documents that they use, as well as showing how the semester will be scaffolded. It's really great too because since the frame of the internship is pretty much the same from semester to semester, I can copy over entire projects to the new internship project. So I don't have to necessarily create a lot of the same information every year. And you can also create template projects as well. Next slide. Another tool that I like is Zotero. Part of the internship is that I bequeathed them a giant preservation textbook of articles, videos, databases, all kinds of resources that I have amassed over the years. And these slot really well into their trainings. So you can see in the screenshot here, it's kind of structured like chapters. So they have introduction to preservation, they have disaster preparedness. I've also added things in there like appendices for preservation supply vendors. That's one thing they learn about that a lot of them don't know anything about, is how to order supplies to do preservation work. There's also links in there for various professional organizations because they may not have any awareness of places like AIC or NEDCCC where they can go learn these tools. So next slide. So looking towards the future, I'm hoping to have more interns. I'm also hoping to kind of expand this internship to a longer term internship where they can learn more advanced preservation techniques. I'm thinking like wet salvage, light book mending, things like this. Also, aspects of this internship can be adapted and deployed for other types of learning opportunities within FSU and the Tallahassee community. We have a photo here of cards collected from one of the FSU memorials from our recent tragedy on campus. And we have a group called Engage TLH that is going to be coming in and processing this material. So we will be doing a surface cleaning training with these students who are working on this, because unfortunately a lot of this stuff was caught in the rain and it got dirty. We have also started offering custom housing workshops to various departments on campus. And we've worked with some other community partners, things like time capsules, teaching them how to open their time capsules and preserve what they are finding. So I think we have a lot of opportunities to develop this program. And I know that I'm going to take a lot of what I learned from my colleagues today and move things forward. So next slide. Here's my info. If you ever want to talk about preservation internships, please drop me a line. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. I learned so much today. And I'm excited to like from all of you and design something exciting. So we have a few minutes for questions. If you have a question, you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat. If you don't have any questions, or while we wait for questions, I have some questions. So there was a lot of numbers thrown around about like the number of hours that the internships can take. So like that's obviously dependent on their program and the amount of money available if you're paying them. So we have 120 hours or 320 hours or things like that. How do you find a project that fills that amount of time that you can ensure they can complete, or along with all of the training that goes into it?
Well, for our part, I can start. 320 is a bit of a long time, and we don't always have the precise fit. And so there's a few different ways that we can massage that figure, where maybe, okay, here's a certain subset of a collection that we want you to process, or maybe on the other end, we're going to catalog a little more on the Florida memory side, throw some extra challenging things to catalog in there, and maybe dive into, one of the different sets of special rules in our cataloging guide. My main concern is that our intern is really interested and invested in the content, and usually that looks like something that connects maybe with graduate research or something like that. And so I don't want to take that criteria out. I want them to keep their hand on the wheel, and then I think the length of project starts to take care of itself. Not to say that we don't need to pay pretty close attention, but I tend to fall into making what's available fit.
Jump in as well. Our host sites that participate, this is their first digitization project ever. So we we are particularly interested in getting new organizations involved in digitization and working with Recollection Wisconsin. So we start simple. We either do a paper-based project or a photo project. It might be a collection of postcards or photos or maybe yearbooks. Something that we know that they can accomplish in a semester. And 120 hours is not that much time. It works out to be about 8 to 10 hours a week of student time. So we ask them to start simple. Some of them will choose maybe 50 to 75 items to work on that semester. But the goal is to get them started and to give them good project documentation that then can facilitate continuing the project after the student leaves. So kind of setting them up for success by not making it too complicated. We're not doing audio or video with the new host sites. Something real simple, flatbed scanning, in some cases, maybe digital photography.
Are those sites able to like renew, like to get another student after, or?
For our program,
Mhm.
we've talked about that. We wanted to try and get as many new organizations involved in the program at first, but we have had some folks, interested in continuing, and they're in locations where we know we have a lot of student interest. So maybe up in the Green Bay area or somewhere in northern Wisconsin. So I think, going forward, we'll be a little more flexible about that. But so far, we haven't had any repeat host sites. But we have had host sites continue to digitize content and keep their projects going. So that's been great.
Do you use like a like any kind of like tool to calculate like how long a project should take based on the number of items or anything like that?
We do not, but that has a lot to do with how we budget for grant funded projects. So we have a standardized tool to figure out how long all of the processes in digitization, metadata creation, et cetera, take, so that we can properly budget. So that holds true. That same kind of like format that we've created for grant budgeting is what we can also use to estimate the amount of time a student will spend on specific tasks. But we don't very often hold to a certain set of hours required because I mean, let's put it this way. Yes, in grants, because that is dictated by how much money we have. But not necessarily like in the non-credit internships that we provide, because we're not beholden to a semester basis for that particular project. But I think also there's a really fantastic question in the chat. And I know that we're over time, but I will say, Alice, you are not alone in this, and finding that some students are really just more engaged than others. And I can't say for sure. I mean, it's two different things, I guess, accountability versus interest. So we always hold our interns accountable through like regular meetings, making sure they're staying on track, making sure their work is performed to like the quality that we're expecting. But as far as interest goes, sometimes we have interns that leave, and I feel like the greatest thing that they've gained was the fact that they never want to go into librarianship because they say, I absolutely did not enjoy any of this work. And I said, you know what, that's fine, because that in itself is telling you something. You got this experience instead of like setting down a particular path. And then at the very end of that path, it's a very low stakes way to figure out what you do and don't like to do as far as work goes. So I don't know. I hope that like somewhat answers your question, but maybe others have been more successful than I have been.
Jamie and Mickey have both praised Hannah for her organization in project management tools. So I think having that kind of structure also helps with some of that accountability, in addition to having the check-ins, right? Because they have specific tasks that they need to check off. So it's having organized something good structure is probably helpful there too.
Yeah, for my interns, it is like assignments. And you know, they're not being graded. They're what they take away from it is what they take away from it. And if they're not putting forth um the effort, then like Jamie was saying, maybe they've learned that this is maybe not the work for them, and I think that is very useful. I have fortunately, my like 5 interns I've had have been very excited about it, but I have had student employees in the past who are just not as interested, and sometimes you just have to find another thing that they like better and just re-divert them to that task, because you know, maybe not everyone loves spreadsheets, but some people like building boxes, or vice versa.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Hannah. We do try to have several project options available for students. So if they are really not interested in metadata creation, yeah, you can put them, maybe try something else out. That might be a little bit more, but sometimes you can try 5 different, digital collections or library related tasks and realize, yes, none of them are for you. And I guess that's also okay.
But that's still learning. Are there any other questions? And thank you all for staying over a little longer. I know we're over time. And Jamie, if you don't mind sharing that resource that you used to calculate time.
Okay, I can share it. I'll try to make some adjustments to it because, okay, let's put it this way. There are available tools out there for folks, right? I think DLF developed a tool, and I don't know if this tool is going to fit everyone's particular situation, because I go in and I make changes for every project, because I know one project is going to have far more complicated metadata. So if it's like multilingual metadata, it's going to take this long. If it's a really, so I'm happy to share like a really basic template with a caveat that folks will have to customize this. And I will tell you, I came to like my initial assessment of numbers by actually having folks on my team go through the processes and timing them. So anyone can kind of do this on your own and say, oh, how long does it take me to create a metadata record? How long does it take me to, go through the quality control process or whatever it happens to be. But I'm happy to share like a framework or a template for that. But just keep in mind that you might have to go in and say, oh, this is not necessarily going to work for this particular project that I'm doing.
Yeah,
adjustments.
that's fair. But having a base is a place to start is helpful, I think, for a lot of people that don't know where to start necessarily on managing like a specific set of hours or something. And DLF does have a calculator, but I think it's only for scanning. I don't think it's for the whole process. So, but yeah, there is a DLF calculator. I can share that in the when I post this on YouTube, it'll be in the description. And I'll send an email to everybody as well. Did we have any other questions from our participants? I don't see any hands or any other comments in the chat. Okay, well, not seeing any other questions. Everyone does have the contact information for each of our panelists, so you can feel free to reach out to any of them or to me if you have any additional questions. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our panelists again for sharing your time and your expertise. This was very useful, and I'm really glad that you were able to join us today. Stop recording.